crime's going to skyrocket. And here's where we are in California, just so everybody across the nation knows this. If you get sentenced to a year in LA County jail, you actually only do 10 days. Criminals here in LA County realize if they commit a crime, you don't do any time. They are targeting deputies from inside the department more so than they're targeting MS-13 or any other people out on the streets that are committing the murders and the felonious assaults.
I'll welcome you, and then I'll sort of explain my situation, because unfortunately what happens when YouTube does this, they give you a second strike and you can't upload videos. You have no way to reach your subscribers, so they just think you stopped caring and haven't posted for 10 days or whatever it is.
Oh my God, so YouTube did it to you, not Facebook?
No, YouTube. And I'll tell you,
Okay.
I'll tell you what video it was too. You'll love which video it was that I got a second strike for. All right.
So I can't watch it now, though, right?
No, you can. It's actually on BitChute. So I'll tell people.
Oh, it's
that.
still up? Okay, good.
It's on my BitChute channel. So, hey, friends, thank you so very much for tuning in. Look, if you're listening to this, if you can hear me right now, then you have found my backup channel on YouTube. Friends, some of you may not realize my main channel, the one with 321,000 subscribers, received its second strike last week, Wednesday, which means I can't upload any videos for 2 weeks, and I have no way to reach all y'all, which is very troublesome. And, when they can take away our First Amendment, and they're trying to take away our Second Amendment, it's very, very problematic. If you're hearing me now on this video, please hit the subscribe button. This is the SGT Report backup channel, and it's my great pleasure to welcome to the show Bob Lindsey. He's a retired commander for the LA County Sheriff's Department, and Bob is running for the LA County Sheriff. Mr. Lindsey appreciates and supports our president, Donald Trump, unlike the bureaucrats in Sacramento, and likely the mayor's office in L.A., and certainly the governor's mansion where Jerry Brown sits today. Bob Lindsey, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on, and thank you for the patriot that you are.
Well, I really appreciate the fact that you are throwing your hat in the ring, folks. The election is on June 5th. When I scheduled this interview, I thought I might be able to help Bob move the needle, because we certainly have tens of thousands of subscribers in California, and now I'm not sure how many of those folks will hear this video before the election. But Bob, tell us, why did you decide to run for sheriff? You are surrounded by liberals everywhere you look in that state. They want our Second Amendment, and you stand opposed to that tyranny. How come you decided to run?
Well, Sean, I worked for the Sheriff's Department for 32 years, and then I was actually recruited to work for the state, overseeing all of the Los Angeles County Superior Courts, which is 40 of them. And in that job, I was actually still overseeing the sheriff's budget in the court's operation. So I have 40 years with the Sheriff's Department. My wife and I had decided that we were going to pick up, and although I've lived here my entire life, we were headed for Arizona, and I don't need to tell you why. But the bottom line is I took a look back over my shoulder, and I thought, oh, my God, my 5 grandbabies are there. This is where I grew up. This is the department I worked for 32 years. And in 3 years, the current sheriff has completely dismantled that department for special interests. Not to mention, he is very anti-Second Amendment, very anti-CCW. And to point that fact out, there's 10.5 million people that reside in Los Angeles County. This current sheriff has only issued 190 CCW permits, meaning it's about 0.000006% of the people in Los Angeles County are being issued. Just thousands and thousands of people are being denied.
Wow. I'll tell you what, isn't that the way it works in liberal land, right? You and I both know that MS-13 has plenty of access to guns. Why in the world do these crazy liberals want to leave honest citizens without guns to defend themselves?
Well, in my 32-year career, I pulled over a lot of cars. I worked gang enforcement. I worked several patrol stations. And the people that I arrested, the criminals that I arrested, were never carrying a gun that they owned. They were either stolen, serial numbers removed, or they were unreported stolens. And so I can tell you, all around LA County, Ventura County, Orange County, Riverside County, they at least with some common sense issue CCWs. And those people issued CCWs in the surrounding counties drive through LA County every day. So where we are in LA County, at least the residents, the only people that can protect us are the police and other county residents, because we're denied the opportunity. Now, as retired law enforcement, obviously I can carry, but I'm one of those few here in Los Angeles County, the good guys, the responsible people, that if something happens at a mall or on the trains or at a school, I'm one of the very few that can actually protect our kids, protect our wives, protect our families.
Let me tell you something that I think is really crazy about California. And being in the Midwest, looking back at California, I really admire the fact that you said you were ready to go to Arizona, and you look back over your shoulder and you said, look, I'm not going to turn tail and run. I need to stand for liberty, and I need to stand against the tyranny of what's happening in California. And you know what? The rest of the country stands with you. And I'm starting to believe that more and more people in California would stand with you. So, guys, if we can move the needle on this at all, and you can get out those listening in California, the election is on June 5th. Go to sheriffboblindsey.com to learn more. You can really make a difference here. If we can pick up another 1,500 votes, that may well tip this thing in the direction we need it to go for Sheriff Bob Lindsey. So tell me a little bit about the current sheriff. I hear he's hiding the crime stats. Is that true?
Well, that's indeed true. In fact, what he has done is he has taken a position that crime is down here in Los Angeles County. Well, we can look all around us and we can see, the property crimes have gone through the ceiling. We can see, in fact, just a simple statistic, because he can't hide the FBI statistics. The FBI just reported that murders, homicides here in Los Angeles County year to date from last year are up 56%. So that alone, not taking the fact that just in Lancaster, that's one area Palmdale, one area that we patrol, murders there are up 900%. There is out of control crime here. And Sean, let me tell you why. He doesn't know how to run the jails. In his law enforcement career, never did he run a jail. And so give me 1 second, Sean, we got a helicopter flying over us. I hope it's armed.
No problem.
But anyway, never did he run a jail. So that means with his inability to understand what it means letting criminals out early, that crime's going to skyrocket. And here's where we are in California, just so everybody across the nation knows this. If you get sentenced to a year in LA County Jail, you actually only do 10 days. So if you get sentenced to 6 months, you do 1 day. Criminals here in LA County realize if they commit a crime, you don't do any time. So why not come to LA County from all the other surrounding counties to do this? People are literally going up on porches because California has changed its grand theft law to $950 instead of $400. They're opening up packages on the porches right in front of those Ring devices, looking at the tags, and if it's less than $950, they look in the Ring, they smile, they wave, and they leave because they know the most they're ever going to get is a ticket. And they don't even show up for their tickets anymore. So this is the state of Los Angeles County, and that's what needs to change.
Can you explain that $950 versus $400? I'm not sure we all know what that meant.
Yeah, grand theft, when you take a certain amount of property and or steal something at a value, it used to be $400. That went from misdemeanor to felony. And now they have decided that $400 is no longer a felony, $500 isn't a felony, $600 isn't, $700, $800, and they've moved it all the way up to $950. So what they have said basically is you have to meet up to $950 for us not to give you a green ticket now. So they've basically raised the limit on every property owner, on anybody who's living in California, so that criminals can go ahead and take more with less penalty.
Yeah, they've emboldened criminals. All right. Well, and you know what? That leads to very low morale, I think probably both among the citizenry and among law enforcement. And during my last question, I said, let me tell you something funny. I never got to it. My video that recently got a second strike from YouTube was titled The Ultimate Betrayal. Guys, you can still watch that video on my SGT Report BitChute channel. Their videos there are proprietary technology and can't be removed by YouTube. So you can watch that video, which was about YouTube censorship for the first third. And the second third, Bob, was about the Second Amendment and the fact that that is our line in the sand. And, the morale in California is so low because they're coming after the guns, they're raising taxes, the gangs are out of control. Tell me about the problem with law enforcement morale, because I think a guy like you can turn it around, just like President Trump being in the Oval Office has turned morale around for so many of us across the rest of the country because he stands for the rule of law in the Constitution. It's just that simple, and you'll stand for those things too.
Well, absolutely, and that's what the deputies want to stand for. And Sean, you know this, and we all know this. In every business, we're going to find a bad cop, we're going to find a bad doctor, we're going to find one, and they have to go. And people look at me from the other side, and they'll say, "Oh, well, you want to embolden bad cops." No, I don't. We want them gone faster than anything, because one bad cop taints the entire basket, and we don't need that. But morale on the sheriff's department is at all-time low. I mean, it is so low the deputies have quit working. They do not want to pull cars over. They don't want to be the first car or unit or person to any domestic violence call because they're afraid they're going to have to touch somebody and they'll get fired. So no matter what the reason, deputies will not engage anymore, which is causing a problem, obviously, because preventive measures, preventive policing keeps people from committing crimes. Right now, the deputies are satisfied responding to crimes because they fear being fired, they fear being over-disciplined, they fear all of those things. They don't fear bullets, they don't fear what's happening out there. Right now, they fear their leadership. And that's because politics has taken over the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department rather than policing. And to give you a perfect example, the union just did a survey of its deputies. 90% of the deputies surveyed want me to be their sheriff. 90%. That's a pretty high number to tell you what they're thinking right now about working in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department for their current command staff.
Maybe you could shed a little light for us on your opponent. Is your opponent a Democrat? Tell us a little bit about who you're running against and why you're the better candidate.
Well, his name is McDonnell, and he came from a career at the Los Angeles Police Department. They police differently than we do. He focuses on putting a lot of executives in there to watch what's happening, whereas on the Sheriff's Department, historically, we have counted on our deputies showing leadership. And so when he comes in, some of the first things he did was he took raid jackets away from our gang deputies because he felt it was overly aggressive that deputies should be out there wearing sheriff's jackets. It's things like this that deputies worked for an entire career to put that jacket on, because that showed the gang members out on the streets that they were experienced, that they knew what they were doing, that was a person that you couldn't lie to or get away with anything because they knew exactly what they were talking about. But see, it's little issues like that up to the big issues of he's firing over 100 deputies a year when the average used to be 20. And what's happened is he has gotten up, bullied the Civil Service Commission, so that the Civil Service Commission is afraid to render actual evidentiary justice to the deputies. And so what's happening, even though the deputies are innocent, the Civil Service Commission is still upholding their terminations. Quick story, I got a call less than a week ago from a deputy who was in court because this department, this sheriff, current sheriff, had filed criminal charges on him for destroying evidence. When it got to court, finally, after almost a year, the judge looked at the prosecutors and said, "Why is this deputy here? There is not one shred of evidence that he did anything wrong." And he asked the district attorney to stand up and give him one shred of evidence, and the district attorney couldn't. So they are targeting deputies from inside the department more so than they're targeting MS-13 or habitual criminals or any other people out on the streets that are committing the murders and the felonious assaults.
Well, I tell you what, it's a head shaker, it's a head scratcher. You just sit, your jaw drops when you think about the problems in California, and you think about Governor Jerry Brown sitting out there in the governor's mansion and signing into law bills like SB 277, which is mandatory vaccinations for children no matter what school you go to. You homeschool your kids, you got to get the shots. You send your kids to a private school, too bad, you got to get the shots. Public school, it's just, I thought that would be the line in the sand for Californians. Evidently not the case. I believe the Second Amendment is the line in the sand for the rest of us, though, in this country. And just to round out the conversation and finish up here, I want to ask you about the homeless epidemic in California. It's really getting out of control, and I'm not sure that there's anything that you would be able to do about that. Certainly policy needs to change, and these bleeding heart liberals that run that state really ought to be doing something about the homeless epidemic, but it's got to cause undue pressure on you guys, on the sheriff's department. How does the homeless epidemic affect the sheriff's department, and is there anything you can do about it?
That's a great question, Sean, and I'll tell you, the sheriff needs to take a lead role in causing the homeless situation to subside. Let's face it, we'll never end homelessness. It's an impossibility because everybody's only one day away from maybe losing their home. But here's the bottom line. It's an elephant that this guy, the current sheriff, has let go out of control. For 3 years, he only had one deputy assigned to this problem in 4,100 square miles. And that's not very good coverage. In his tenure, homelessness here has gone up somewhere in the area of about 70%. In the last year, it's gone up 25%. There's hepatitis A. There is feces and urine everywhere you look on the streets. They are literally having to bleach the streets of Los Angeles now because of the things that are happening here. When you get off a freeway off-ramp, you can figure you're going to have somebody coming up to your car asking for money, trying to wash your windshield, or they're going to have a gun trying to rob you. You just don't know anymore. Going to a donut shop, your wife, your kids, your grandkids are going to be approached by homeless people. And it's just a really bad situation. The sheriff needs to take control of this. He needs to pull this all in together. We need to enforce the law within the homeless population, and that would mean arresting drug addicts. That would mean getting mental health patients to the appropriate place. Right now, we have somewhere in the area of about 350 or so mental health patients sitting in county jail who are not criminals. They're just being housed in our county jail. This is uncalled for. This has got to change. They need mental health help by professionals, not deputies. Deputies don't have those skills. So this is just a big mess here. And like you asked, the sheriff can do a lot about it, but the sheriff has to stand up. He has to not be afraid when people tell him, oh, you're not compassionate enough. Well, I'll tell you what compassion is. Compassion is arresting the drug addict and getting them help, not bypassing the drug addict until they overdose.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a huge problem, and it is a problem that has been created from the top down. It was created by the governor. It was created by the bureaucrats in Sacramento. And look, we don't have anything against homeless people. We have compassion for homeless people, but we also need to have compassion and empathy for the citizens who pay taxes because they should be able to live in safe neighborhoods. They should be able to send their kids to safe schools. That is the job of law enforcement. But again, it's top down. The corruption, I think, my view, in California, the corruption is so widespread, it's a top down problem. And again, I think one of the best examples is SB 277, mandatory vaccinations. These people say they want to help kids. How do they help kids? You got to give them the shot. They don't ever do anything that actually helps people, and I think it's a liberal mindset that in my view needs to be defeated, and it's men like Bob Lindsey that are willing to stand up, stand for the Constitution, and run for sheriff that'll make the difference. Bob, can you shout out the website and tell people how we can support you?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Sean. It's bob4sheriff.com. bob4sheriff.com. Go there. If you want to give a few bucks, that's great. Right now, we are looking for votes. Please use your social media. Touch anybody here in Los Angeles County, and that's any city in Los Angeles County. It doesn't matter where it is, even the ones that have private policing. So please call out to all of your friends here in LA County and tell them June 5th is important because there's an apathy here. People do not come out and vote at these primaries. So your single vote is worth a minimum of 5 votes if you just show up.
Yeah, and guys, I mentioned that at the beginning of the call. Now, unfortunately, I've looked at the calendar here. I believe my second strike for that video called The Ultimate Betrayal was issued by YouTube on the 23rd, which is Wednesday. That means my 2 weeks isn't up until June 6th, Wednesday, the day after this election, which is very unfortunate. So this is on the backup channel, guys. If even 1,000 of you will go out and vote, boy, even if it was a couple hundred of you in the LA County area that would go out and vote on the 5th, it could really make a difference for Sheriff Bob Lindsey. Bob, thank you so much. I will send you a link once I have this posted, sir.
Sean, thank you so very much, and keep up the great work. We all appreciate it here.
All right. Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate Patriots. And, folks, we appreciate any of you that will get out and vote on June 5th for Sheriff Bob Lindsey. Our guest has been Sheriff Bob Lindsey. One more time with the website, Sheriff.
Bob4Sheriff.com. Thanks,
right.
Sean.
Thank you, sir. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in for Real News 24/7. Visit us at sgtreport.com, thephaser.com, and thelibertymill.com. Real News 24/7. God bless.
Podesta's emails going back and forth to him and his brother, and their references over and over again to pizza and pasta that make no sense. Pizza-related maps, things that are obviously code words. And we know in the urban underground that pizza and pasta are supposed to be code words for little girls and little boys. And clearly that's what these emails look like. They're talking about pizza and pasta way too much for powerful people.